My name is Ava, and I once thought I'd found a fairy tale, until I was kicked out of a hospital at midnight clutching my newborn with just $37 in my pocket. From being the wife of a Rothschild to a single mother living under a false name, my journey became a fight. For justice, for dignity, and for my daughter. Before I share the rest of my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit like and subscribe, especially if you've ever had to rebuild from nothing. Trust me, you're going to want to hear what happens next. The rain hammered against the hospital window like it was trying to break in. I held Liana against my chest, her tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb, and tried to ignore the champagne smell that rolled off Matthew when he finally stumbled through the door. Is it? He squinted at the bundle in my arms, swaying slightly. Behind him, Vivian Rothschild clicked into the room in her Louboutins, her face already set in that expression I'd come to know too well. Disappointment wrapped in designer clothes. A girl, I whispered, watching his mother's mouth tighten. Vivian's diamond earrings caught the fluorescent light as she turned to her son. Well, that's unfortunate. My stomach clenched. I'd pushed a human being out of my body 3 hours ago, and this woman was treating my daughter like a failed wine vintage. Matthew mumbled something about needing air and disappeared again. I should have known then. Should have seen what was coming in the way Vivian's manicured fingers typed furiously on her phone, in the way the nurses suddenly wouldn't meet my eyes. 48 hours later, they cornered me. A man in a suit I didn't recognize spread papers across my hospital bed, while Vivian stood guard at the door. My body still ached from delivery, and they were talking about signatures, about mutual agreements, about what's best for everyone. I don't understand, I kept saying, but the words felt thick in my mouth. They'd given me something for the pain earlier. At least, that's what they said it was for. Just sign here, dear. Vivian's voice was silk over steel. Unless you want everyone to know about your little indiscretion with Miguel. Miguel, my studio assistant who'd helped me move canvases twice. The lie was so smooth, so practiced, I almost believed it myself for a second. When I hesitated, she leaned closer. You have nothing, Ava. No money of your own, no family, no proof. Sign, or I'll make sure you never see her again. My hand shook as I wrote my name. Even now, I can still feel the weight of that pen. They let me take one bag, and my baby. The credit cards were already canceled. I found that out trying to buy formula at the hospital pharmacy. The car keys they simply took. Company property, the lawyer said. I stood outside the hospital at 2 a.m. with Liana crying against my chest and nowhere to go. That's when my phone buzzed. One message, from a number I'd deleted 100 times but somehow always remembered. Ava, I heard. My offer still stands. Always will. G. Gabriel. The man who'd asked me to marry him 3 years ago. Who I'd left for the fairy tale of being a Rothschild. My thumb hovered over the reply button, but pride tastes bitter when you're homeless with a newborn. I shoved the phone in my pocket and walked to the bus station instead. The ticket agent barely looked up. Where to? Anywhere, I said, as far as $37 gets me. The coffee grounds stuck under my fingernails no matter how hard I scrubbed. 3 years of making lattes at Mel's Cafe had turned my artist hands into something rougher, more practical. Liana sat in her usual corner booth, coloring with the stubby crayons I'd sweet-talked from a restaurant supply store. Mama, look! She held up her drawing. A house with smoke coming from the chimney, 3 stick figures holding hands in front. The kind of normal life we didn't have. Beautiful, baby. I wiped my hands on my apron, the one with Anna stitched on the pocket. Anna Lane, the name I'd pulled from thin air at the women's shelter when they asked who I was. Ava Lorien had signed those papers. She was gone. Our apartment in Echo Park was 400 square feet of water stains and windows that didn't quite close. But it was ours, paid for with cash, no questions asked. I'd learned to fix the toilet when it ran, to put towels under the door when it rained, to make Liana think the noise from the couple fighting upstairs was just the TV being too loud. Sleep was something other people did. 4 hours, if I was lucky, between the cafe job and the illustration gigs I picked up online. Children's books mostly. Happy families, adventure stories, everything we weren't living. I drew under a pseudonym. Payment to a P.O. box. No digital trail. Paranoid, maybe. But paranoia keeps you hidden. Anna! Lena Morales waved from the doorway, her own kid balanced on her hip. You still need me to watch Liana tomorrow? Lena lived 2 doors down, another single mom who'd learned that bruises fade, but the fear takes longer. We had a system. She watched Liana during my evening shifts. I watched Carlos when she cleaned offices at night. No money exchanged, just survival. If you can, I said, hating how grateful I sounded. She studied my face the way she always did, like she was checking for cracks. You sleeping at all? Enough. Liar. But she smiled when she said it. There's leftover pozole if you want some. Carlos won't eat the hominy. This was our life. Small kindnesses between broken people, raising kids in the spaces between what went wrong. That night, I drew another commission. A little girl with wings flying over a garden. The client wanted her to look free and unafraid. I stared at the sketch for a long time, trying to remember what that felt like. Liana mumbled in her sleep from our shared bed, something about butterflies. I touched her hair, still baby soft, and made the same promise I made every night. Tomorrow will be better. Even I was starting to believe it. That was my first mistake. The cup slipped from my hand when I saw him. Coffee exploded across the floor. Brown liquid racing toward his expensive shoes. But Gabriel didn't move. Just stood there in my cafe like he'd been waiting 3 years for this exact moment. Ava, one word, and my carefully built walls cracked. I ran. Straight through the kitchen, past Mel's shocked face, out the back door into the alley that smelled like old garbage and broken dreams. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone, checking the time. 2 hours until Liana got out of preschool. 2 hours to figure out how to disappear again. But when I got home, the door was already open. My sketches were scattered across the floor like dead leaves. Liana's toys, the few she had, were dumped from their box. The mattress was flipped, my illustration portfolio ripped open, years of work exposed. But it was the photo they'd left on the counter that made me stop breathing. Liana at the park last week, playing on the swings. I hadn't seen anyone taking pictures. Mama? Lena stood in my doorway, Carlos clinging to her leg. I saw a car. Expensive one. They had keys. Of course they had keys. Vivian probably owned half the buildings in LA through shell companies. I'd been so careful, but not careful enough. I threw clothes in a bag, hands moving on autopilot. 3 years of practice. Take only what matters. Liana's drawings. Her favorite stuffed rabbit. The emergency cash from inside the coffee can. Leave everything else. Where will you go? Lena's voice was steady, but I saw the fear she was trying to hide. She knew what running looked like. I don't know. Here. She pressed something into my hand. A business card, edges soft from her wallet. My cousin gave me this. Said if I ever needed help, real help. Gabriel Reeve, attorney at law. Specializing in family protection and women's rights. The universe has a sick sense of humor sometimes. Lena, I can't. He's been looking for you. She said it quietly, like she was confessing to a crime. The lawyer. He came by the building a month ago, showed your picture around. I didn't say anything. My knees went weak. Why didn't you tell me? Because he didn't look like he wanted to hurt you. She touched my arm. Anna, Ava, whoever you are, maybe it's time to stop running. But I couldn't. Not when Liana's safety was at stake. I made it 3 blocks before I saw them. 2 men in suits standing by a black car watching my building. Waiting. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number. You have something that belongs to this family. Vivian's voice was ice. My granddaughter. She's not, check your email. I did. Court summons, custody hearing, charges of kidnapping, identity fraud, child endangerment. Legal words that meant one thing, they were coming for Liana. You have excellent lawyers, Vivian continued. But I have better ones. Come home, Ava. We can make this all go away. I hung up and called the only number I had left. Gabriel answered on the first ring. Where are you? I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry. Where are you? 20 minutes later, he pulled up in a regular sedan. Not the Tesla I expected. He looked older, tired, but his eyes were the same. That mix of intelligence and kindness that had made me fall for him the first time. Get in. I did. What choice did I have? There's something I need to tell you, I said as he drove. About Liana, about her father. His hands tightened on the wheel. We'll deal with that later. Right now, we need to keep you both safe. Gabriel's office smelled like leather and justice, if justice had a smell. I sat across from him while Liana played with a puzzle in the corner, trying to process what his investigator had just revealed. Shell companies. Gabriel spread the documents across his desk like evidence at a crime scene. 17 of them, all leading back to Vivian's charity foundation. I stared at the papers I'd signed 3 years ago. Not separation agreements, property transfers, deed assignments, power of attorney. My signature authorizing things I'd never agreed to, on dates when I was delirious with postpartum exhaustion. She used me. She used everyone. Gabriel's jaw clenched. But you were convenient. Young wife with no family, no resources. Perfect fall person if the authorities ever investigated. What about Matthew? Did he know? Gabriel's silence was answer enough. The wine shipping manifests don't match the customs declarations, the investigator Chen added. They're moving more than wine to Europe. Money comes back clean through the charity. My head spun. I'd thought I was escaping a bad marriage. Instead, I'd been fleeing a criminal enterprise. There's more. Gabriel hesitated. The custody suit. It's not really about getting Liana back. It's about control. If their operation gets exposed, Liana becomes the sole legitimate heir to everything. Clean assets they can access through a guardian. Over my dead body. That might be their backup plan. The words hung in the air like smoke. I looked at my daughter, carefully fitting puzzle pieces together, and felt something shift inside me. 3 years of fear crystallizing into something harder. So what do? We fight? Gabriel leaned forward. But Ava, there's something else. The court will demand a paternity test. My stomach dropped. Gabriel! I know. His voice was gentle. The timeline. I did the math 3 years ago. Heat flooded my face. I was with you until 2 weeks before Matthew and I couldn't finish. It was such a mess. You'd proposed, I panicked, we fought. Then Matthew was there with his promises and his family's money, and I thought, you thought you were choosing security. I was an idiot. You were 23 and scared. He watched Liana stack blocks now. The puzzle finished. But we need to know. If she's Matthew's, she's not. The words came out fierce. Even if the DNA says she is, she's not his. He's never been her father. Legally. I know what it means legally. I stood, pacing to the window. Downtown LA stretched below us, all glass and ambition. Do the test. Gabriel was quiet for a moment. Are you sure? I'm tired of running from the truth. Chen knocked and entered. There's been a development. Vivian Rothschild just filed an emergency injunction. She's claiming you're a flight risk. Smart. Gabriel was already reaching for his phone. She wants you locked down before we can gather more evidence. What does that mean? House arrest, most likely. Electronic monitoring. You'd have to surrender Liana to temporary custody, No. The word came out raw. Gabriel, I can't. You won't. He was already dialing. Judge Martinez owes me a favor, but Ava, we need that DNA test. Today. I nodded, feeling the walls closing in again. But this time was different. This time I wasn't alone. Mama? Liana tugged on my hand. Are you sad? I knelt to her level. No, baby, Mama's just thinking. About the bad lady? My breath caught. What bad lady? The one in the pretty clothes. She came to my school. Liana's voice was matter-of-fact, the way kids delivered devastating information. She said she was my grandma, but Miss Julie made her leave. Gabriel was beside us in an instant. When was this, sweetheart? Yesterday. She smelled like flowers, too many flowers. Vivian's signature perfume. She'd been stalking my daughter. I looked at Gabriel, saw my own rage reflected in his eyes. They'd crossed a line. Chen! Gabriel's voice was steel. Get the lab here, now, and call Patterson at the FBI. Tell him we have evidence of interstate money laundering. FBI, I whispered. No more playing defense. He squeezed my shoulder. They want a war? Let's give them one. The lab tech's hands were gentle as she swabbed Liana's cheek. My daughter thought it was a game, opening wide like at the dentist. Gabriel stood by the window, his back to us, shoulders tense. All done? The tech sealed the sample. Results in 24 hours. 24 hours to find out if I'd been lying to myself for 3 years? After she left, I tucked Liana into the bed in Gabriel's guest room. She fell asleep, clutching her rabbit, unaware that her entire world balanced on a cotton swab. I found Gabriel on this balcony, city lights blinking below us like fallen stars. I need to tell you something. The words felt like glass in my throat. About why I really left. He didn't turn. You don't have to. I do. I gripped the railing. You proposed on my birthday. Remember? That perfect dinner, the ring your grandmother left you. Everything I thought I wanted, but it wasn't. It was. My voice cracked. That was the problem. You were real, Gabriel. Your love was real, and I didn't think I deserved real. Now he turned, face half in shadow. Ava, my mom cleaned houses for families like the Rothschilds. The confession poured out like water through a broken dam. I grew up watching her scrub their toilets, come home with her back aching, counting pennies for my school supplies. I swore I'd never be her. So you chose Matthew. I chose the fairy tale. I laughed, bitter. Cinderella complex, right? Except Prince Charming was a drunk and his mother was the real villain. Why didn't you call me? After Liana was born, when things went bad? Because I was ashamed. The truth sat heavy between us. I'd thrown away something real for something shiny, and then I had Liana, and what if she was yours? What right did I have to come crawling back? Every right. His voice was fierce. You had every right. I used to dream about it. I couldn't stop now, words tumbling out. Calling you. Showing up at your door. But then I'd remember how I left. No explanation, just that awful note. I'm marrying Matthew Rothschild. Like you meant nothing. You were scared. I was a coward. You were surviving. I shook my head. Don't make excuses for me. I'm not. He moved closer. But I knew you, Ava. Knew your history, your fears. Did I hate you for leaving? Yes. Was I angry? God, yes, but I never stopped. He cut himself off. What? I never stopped hoping you'd call. The city hummed below us, all those lives moving in their patterns. Unaware of two people standing on a balcony, sorting through the wreckage of choices made in fear. What if she's Matthew's? I whispered. Then we deal with it. And if she's yours? Then she's been mine all along. His certainty undid me. Biology doesn't change that I've already chosen her. And you. Gabriel, I know you're not ready to hear this. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, the gesture achingly familiar. But I need you to know, that proposal, it still stands. Not because I'm waiting for you to be who you were, but because I want who you are now. Battle scars and all. I broke. 3 years of walls crumbling as I sobbed into his chest, his arms the only thing keeping me upright. I cried for the girl who thought love wasn't enough, for the woman who learned it was everything, for the mother who'd almost lost it all. Mama? Liana's voice drifted from the doorway. Why are you crying? I pulled back, wiping my face. Happy tears. Ears, baby. She patted over in her pajamas, looking between us with those serious eyes. Is he the nice man from the pictures? I froze. What pictures? In your drawer, under the socks. She yawned. You look happy in them. Gabriel raised an eyebrow. I blushed, caught. I'd kept one photo, just one. Us at the beach, laughing at something I couldn't remember. Yeah, I said softly. He's the nice man from the pictures. Good. She reached for his hand, then mine, linking us together. Can we have pancakes tomorrow? And just like that, my 3-year-old showed me what forgiveness looked like. The courtroom smelled like old wood and desperation. I sat between Gabriel and his co-counsel, trying not to stare at Matthew across the aisle. He'd lost weight. His golden boy looks faded into something harder. Beside him, Vivian sat rigid as a marble statue, her lawyer whispering urgently in her ear. All rise. Judge Martinez took her seat, and I could barely breathe. This was just the preliminary hearing, but it felt like everything hung in the balance. Gabriel stood. Your Honor, we have evidence that Mrs. Rothschild orchestrated a systematic fraud involving— Objection! Vivian's lawyer was on his feet. These accusations are baseless attempts to deflect from Ms. Lorien's kidnapping. She's my daughter! The words erupted from me before Gabriel could stop me. Ms. Lorien. The judge's voice was sharp. You'll have your chance to speak. I sank back, cheeks burning. Gabriel's hand found mine under the table, steady. As I was saying, Gabriel continued, smooth as silk, we have documentation proving falsified signatures, coerced agreements, and a pattern of financial crimes that my client unknowingly became entangled in. He presented the evidence methodically. Every forged document, every shell company, the FBI's preliminary findings. The room grew quieter with each revelation. Then Vivian's lawyer dropped his bomb. Your Honor, we question whether Ms. Lorien even has standing in this case. He held up a paper. We've received the DNA results. My heart stopped. We weren't supposed to get those until expedited testing, he continued. Smug. Mr. Matthew Rothschild is not the biological father of the child in question. The courtroom erupted. Matthew shot to his feet, face purple. What? Vivienne grabbed his arm, hissing something. But I saw it. The flash of relief in her eyes. If Liana wasn't blood, she was useless to their plans. Your Honor. Gabriel stood, voice cutting through the chaos. We're prepared to address paternity. The biological father is... Me? Everyone turned. Gabriel stepped forward, shoulders squared. I'm Liana's biological father. I have the test results here. He'd tested himself, without telling me, without asking. The judge studied the papers, then looked at me. Ms. Lorien, were you aware of this? My voice cracked. I suspected. The timing. She knew. Matthew's voice was poison. She always knew. Played me for a fool. Mr. Rothschild, the judge warned. But Matthew was past caring. 3 years. 3 years, I thought. He whirled on his mother. You said she was mine. You said the timing worked out. Vivienne's mask finally cracked. It should have, if she hadn't been whoring around. The gavel cracked like thunder. Mrs. Rothschild! But the damage was done. Matthew stared at his mother like he was seeing her for the first time. You knew. You ran the test yourself, didn't you? When Liana was born. Silence. Didn't you? The gender was disappointing enough, Vivienne said coolly. The paternity simply confirmed what kind of woman we were dealing with. So you destroyed her life anyway? I protected our interests. Our interests? Matthew laughed, ugly and broken. I loved my daughter. She wasn't mine, but I loved her. And you, Your Honor? Gabriel interrupted. Given this development, we move to dismiss all custody claims from the Rothschild family. Granted. The judge looked disgusted. Mrs. Rothschild, Mr. Rothschild, you have no standing regarding this child. But the prosecutor stood. The fraud charges still stand, Your Honor. Mrs. Rothschild's crimes are federal matters now. An FBI agent I hadn't noticed before stepped forward. We'll be taking custody of Mrs. Rothschild. It happened fast. Handcuffs clicking. Vivienne's perfect composure finally shattering as they led her away. Matthew sat frozen, watching his mother's empire crumble. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Gabriel shielded us, guiding me to his car where Lena waited with Liana. Mama! Liana launched herself at me. Did we win? I caught her, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent. Yeah, baby, we won. Ms. Lorien, a reporter shoved forward. How does it feel to be vindicated? I looked at her. Young, eager, probably working her first big story. Once I would have hidden. Now I stood straighter. It feels like justice, I said clearly. For every woman who's been silenced. For every mother who's been threatened. We won't be victims anymore. Gabriel's hand found my back, warm and steady. Together, we walked away from the cameras toward whatever came next. 6 months later, I stood in the gallery of another courtroom, watching Vivienne Rothschild get sentenced to 15 years. She looked smaller in orange, her empire reduced to a number on a jumpsuit. When they led her away, she didn't look back. Matthew got probation and community service. The jury believed he truly didn't know about his mother's schemes. He'd already signed away any claim to Liana, not that he had one to begin with. I'd seen him once, at a coffee shop downtown. He'd looked right through me like I was a ghost. Maybe I was to him. The ghost of a life built on lies. Ready? Gabriel touched my elbow. I nodded, following him out into the Los Angeles sunshine. The Victims' Compensation Fund had finally come through. Not millions, but enough. Enough to pay back the shelter that had taken us in. Enough to help Lena get her nursing license back. Enough to start over without looking over my shoulder. Ava! Chen jogged up, grinning. Just got word. 3 more women came forward about Vivienne's coercion tactics. The FBI's opening a whole task force. I'd become the face of something I never intended. The woman who brought down Vivian Rothschild. My story had opened floodgates. Other wives, other victims stepping out of shadows I knew too well. That's good, I said, meaning it. That's really good. We drove to pick up Liana from her new school, a real preschool, with art programs and a library. She ran out, clutching a painting, pigtails bouncing. Look, I made our family. 3 figures holding hands under a rainbow. But now there were flowers at their feet and a sun smiling down. It's beautiful, Gabriel said, lifting her up. Should we frame it? For our new house? For our new house. We'd closed escrow that morning. Nothing fancy. A 2-bedroom in Silver Lake with a yard for Liana and a studio space for me. But it was ours. Mine and Gabriel's name on the deed, everything legal and clean. That night, I stood in my new studio, unpacking art supplies I'd kept in storage. Real canvas, quality brushes, the tools of a life I'd almost forgotten I wanted. Knock, knock. Gabriel appeared with tea. Thought you might need this? Reading my mind again? Always. He set the mug down, studying the half-finished painting on my easel. New children's book? Maybe. I'd started getting real commissions again, under my own name. Or maybe just processing. The painting showed a woman climbing out of dark water, reaching for light. Abstract but emotional. The kind of art I used to make before I learned to hide. Ava, Gabriel's voice was careful. There's something we should talk about. My stomach clenched. Okay. The adoption papers came through. For Liana. I can legally adopt her whenever you're ready, if you're ready. I set down my brush. We'd been dancing around this for months. The future, what we were to each other. Living in the same house but separate bedrooms. Co-parents, but not quite more. Both of us too scarred to push. What do you want? I asked. I want what you want. That's not an answer. He smiled, sad and sweet. I want to be her father. Legally, officially, forever. But more than that, he stepped closer. I want to try again. Us, if you're willing. I'm not the same person I was 4 years ago. Thank God for that. His hand found my paint-stained fingers. I fell in love with that girl, but I choose this woman. The survivor. The fighter. The mother who walked through hell for her daughter. Gabriel, I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet. I need you to know where I stand. Where I've always stood. I looked at our joined hands. His clean, mine covered in cerulean blue. Somehow that felt right. We were different now, but maybe that was okay. Maybe that was better. Liana asked me something yesterday, I said. She wanted to know if you were going to be her daddy forever or just for now. What did you tell her? That it was up to us? I met his eyes. So what do you think? Forever or just for now? He answered by kissing me, soft and certain, tasting like promises kept and new beginnings. When we broke apart, I was crying again, but these were different tears. Forever, he whispered. It was always forever. 1 year later, I stood in our backyard in Santa Barbara, watching Liana chase butterflies through the garden we'd planted together. The house wasn't grand, a Spanish-style cottage with good bones and better light. But the studio Gabriel had built in the back caught the morning sun perfectly, and the ocean breeze carried salt and possibility. Mama, look! Liana held up dirty hands. The tomatoes are growing. I see that, baby. She'd insisted on a vegetable garden after visiting the farmer's market. Now we had tomatoes, peppers, and herbs growing in raised beds Gabriel had built. Teaching her that good things took time, needed tending. Lessons I was still learning myself. Mail! Gabriel called from the house. He came out carrying a thick envelope and wearing that expression, the one that meant legal documents. My chest tightened from habit, then relaxed. Not every envelope brought disaster anymore. It's from the publisher, he said. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, a contract and a check. My first children's book. The Girl Who Painted Her Way Home had sold to a major publisher. The advance was more than I'd made in 3 years of hiding. Oh my God. Language, Liana chirped, then went back to her butterflies. Gabriel laughed, pulling me close. I'm so proud of you. It's really happening. It's really happening. The book told the story of a little girl who gets lost in a dark forest but finds her way home by painting doors on trees. Each door leads somewhere new, some scary, some beautiful. until she finds the one that opens to her family. It wasn't subtle, but the editor said that's what made it powerful. We should celebrate, Gabriel said. Dinner at that place you like? Actually, I took a breath. I need to tell you something first. His face went careful. Okay. I took his hand, placed it on my still flat stomach. The test was positive this morning. The joy that broke across his face was sunrise after the longest night. He dropped to his knees right there in the dirt, pressing his forehead to my belly. Hello in there? He whispered. I'm your dad. Daddy? Liana appeared beside us, curious. What are you doing? Talking to your baby brother or sister. Her eyes went wide. There's a baby in Mama? A tiny one, I said, just starting to grow. She considered this, then patted my stomach. Hi, baby, I'm Liana. I'm going to be the best big sister. I'll teach you everything. Like how to paint and grow tomatoes and pick good worms for the birds. Gabriel and I exchanged looks over her head, trying not to laugh. That evening, we sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in watercolors. Liana dozed between us, worn out from excitement. The Roots Foundation, Gabriel's organization for women escaping coercive custody situations, had helped 12 families this month. My illustrations were hanging in galleries. We'd built something from ashes. I never thanked you, I said quietly. For what? For looking for me? For not giving up? I almost did. His honesty still surprised me sometimes. After 2 years, I thought maybe you didn't want to be found. Maybe you were happy. What changed your mind? I realized it didn't matter. If you were happy, I needed to know. If you weren't, he squeezed my hand. I needed to know that too. And now? Now I know. A car passed. Radio playing something soft. Liana stirred, mumbled about paint colors in her sleep. Normal sounds of a normal evening in a normal life. Everything I'd never dared to want. The first time you proposed, I said, I ran because I didn't think I deserved it. The fairy tale. This isn't a fairy tale. No, I agreed. It's better. Better. It's real. He kissed my temple. So what do you say? Third time's the charm? I turned to find him holding a ring. Not his grandmother's ornate diamond, but something simpler. A band of sea glass set in silver, green as hope. I found it on the beach last week, he said. It reminded me of you. Beautiful because of everything it survived. Yes, I said, not needing to think. Yes to all of it. Liana woke as he slipped the ring on my finger. Are we having a party? The best kind, Gabriel told her. A forever party. She nodded sleepily, satisfied with this answer. Good. Can we have cake? And we laughed. All three of us, while the sky turned purple and the garden held tomorrow's promises in its soil. Not an ending, but a beginning. The kind you choose, eyes open, hands dirty, heart full. The kind that lasts.